G'day and welcome to the Ball Boys AFL Fantasy Podcast. Today we're going to be breaking down all of the cash cows and rookies that are going to dictate our structure. Give us that cash injection so we can make our upgrades. Let's go!
Just done it from nowhere. Wasting the goal from inside the 30. Sheed from the boundary. Dusty. Petrarca. The legend becomes immortal.
G'day and welcome again to the Ball Boys AFL Fantasy Podcast. I'm your host, Mitch Casey, and you can find me on Twitter at Ball Boys Fantasy, joined by the one and only Luke Rogerson. We are so close, days away from the start of footy. Round 0 is just around the corner. A few days when we're recording, a couple days by the time people listen to this podcast. Luke, you getting excited yet?
Yeah, it's crazy time. Hey, it's interesting, this round 0. You don't know how to feel. Obviously, it is fantasy, but it's not fantasy. Yeah. So it's I'm looking forward to it regardless.
Does it feel like the first weekend of footy?
In ways it does.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit shameful to admit, but I almost don't look at footy from any other perspective than fantasy anymore.
Fantasy, let's go.
I know. I wish I could look at footy the same, but now that we're just...
Well, especially that we're not expecting Richmond to sort of really be playing for all that much this year as Richmond fans that we are. But, I'm two minds about it opening round. Look, I don't mind it in the intrigue, but I do think a lot of, especially the rookies we're going to be speaking about today, we're all going to have fairly similar teams. And I think that despite maybe a few key differences, now again, it's a trading game and we're going to diverge after a few rounds, but I think a lot of us are going to have some good rookies because we're going to see a lot of names in the opening round either put their hand up or cross their names off the list based on how they're scoring. But we're going to try and dive into the rookies today, go through line by line and talk about who, I guess, looking like are the best options at given price points. And, not looking at your team there.
Before we dive into the rookies, I want to know, after you slept on it, did LDU survive the night?
Cut! He is chopped.
He's the first bloke on the chopping block for 2024.
Fucking 38 points. Get out of my team, mate.
Did you get up at 3 a.m. with the sweats to come over to your laptop and chop him out?
No, I couldn't sleep with him sitting there. He had to go before then.
Go straight away.
Yeah, he had to go. So I wasn't getting a rest. So no,
goodness
he's
me,
out of my team.
A few stats getting around suggesting that maybe we should just turn a blind eye to this stinky score and perhaps...
I think that sets a bad precedent for Richmond in the preseason.
Okay,
if I'm going to accept that kind of scoring, then I'm in for a rough year.
You're all about the standards.
Yeah, the standards have been set at Richmond. I will not be copying sub-40 scores from my premiums this year. So, no, he's got the chop. Look, there's still a few things. I've been tinkering around with my team, and I've got a fairly comfortable structure. There's maybe about 4 or 5 spots that are kind of up for debate based on what happens on opening rounds and a few of those key roles there. What about your team? Are you settling in?
I think I'm settling in to a point, but you're not wrong about those spots that just give you headaches all preseason, aren't they? But it's not a bad segue when you said structure there because the rookies dictate the structure.
Rookies dictate the structure, the age-old rule, and we're going to be talking the defenders first, which is probably the most headache riddled line for these defenders, these rookies, because we've got a few players that I don't think you want any of these guys on your field, first and foremost.
Yeah.
A few of them have decent job security, but I think for those ones that do have decent job security, their scoring is not anything that we're very confident in. And the ones that maybe can score have bad job security as well. So we'll go through, I guess, the rankings that I've put them in here. I'm open to be, I'm not going to proclaim to be the rookie expert, but based on what I've heard, based on some scores we've seen in the practice games and the community series games, this is, I guess, how I rank them. And yeah, you let me know if you disagree or anything like that, or anything in the comments. If you've got some hot intel on some of these rookies, drop them down over on YouTube. At number 1, I've got Zach Reed from the Bombers at 253K.
I thought you just mistyped Harley here, mate, and put him in
Harley
the wrong
Reid,
line.
no, different Reed. Zach Reed from the Bombers. He's a bit of a key defender. He scored a 67 in their matchup against the Cats on the weekend. He seems to be, I think he was a top 10 pick maybe a couple of drafts ago, had a couple of injuries and things like that. So he's slightly older, and like I said, that 67 that he scored, so he's 22 years old, that 67 that he scored in that game gives me at least a little bit of hope that he's going to score enough. You've got someone like a Ridley going down, maybe it gives him a slight bit of a boost. They do love to chip it around. Job security, and they love to chip it around a bit at Essendon, so that's kind of my thoughts. Do you have much of a thought on him?
I don't have a great deal, but I think that, like you said, with Ridley going down, potentially if he's a guy that's named when it comes round 1 and we still, after round 0, are devoid of defender rookie options, then certainly if he can punch out mid-60s for us, then that'd be fantastic. I think some interesting discussion. We'll talk about all the names before we get into stuff in too much depth, but I think an interesting discussion might be whether you speculate in the defender rookies or whether you just lock in job security and then trade to guys that seem to be popping on your bench as well.
I think there's some good rookies in other lines, so I don't mind going a bit more speculation, and there's a few guys here. I'll run through the next 4, so the top 5, because he's the only guy in my top 5 that is higher than basement price, because at number 2 I've got Ari Schoenmaker, who was in my team very early because I heard some good things about him, but he got sent to the VFL, I think, for stints, and then came back and played. Looked great
well
against the North Melbourne team, but they were missing a few players. But obviously Webster is going to get suspended. I want to say Battle or somewhat, I can't remember, or Howard, I think it was, got injured, and he's up for debate whether he's going to be back in time for round 1. So I think he's up there. Blake Howes has been confirmed to be playing in round 0 for the Melbourne Demons, so he's going to be one to watch in that opening round. Some people say that he looks good. Didn't score so well in the practice game, but we're going to get a good look in opening round. Charlie Dean is someone that I also think we can have a look at. Plays for Collingwood, 200k defender. He's a bit more of a key defender, but scored, I think, I want to say he scored about a 60 in their game. I'll just double check that one. I think he scored a 60 against Richmond.
Surely he'll struggle to crack into that defense.
You would think so. I think he's battling with, he has 63 with 8 marks in the game against Richmond. I think he's battling against the legend himself, Billy Frampton, who, grand final medalist. So he's won a flag. So
wasn't his best game, I don't think.
I don't think. Yes, but I think he's still going to be. Is obviously a tough team, so he's behind House for that reason. And then you've got someone like Ethan Phillips, who bit more of that second or third tall for the Hawthorn team. He got picked up, I think, by an SSP signing because of all their injuries and things like that. So he comes in cheap.
You'd have to think that he has pretty good job security based on the fact that they went and actively got him after
you would
the
think
blank injury.
So. Yeah. So I think your Schoenmakers, your Howes, and your Deans are probably the players I think maybe score better, especially Howes and Schoenmaker. Schoenmaker, I think, has the best scoring potential out of any of these players, which is why he is number 2. But probably not as much job security as like your Phillips and your Reeds. So I guess it is a bit of pick your poison in that regard. Do you have a preference to going cheap, and do you think it's like there's not that much of a difference that you save the 50k from a Reed or some of these other guys we're going to mention later and just go those basement prices and cross your fingers, or
of those positions on the defensive line? It certainly makes you nervous, especially if you end up picking a guy like Williams who has an early buy, or if you're thinking about Kitty Coleman as well. I know that it's only best 18 in those rounds where they have the early buys, but it would be nice to just drop a heartbeat on to make sure that 18th score isn't an absolute stinker. The other thing with maybe a Phillips is that Hawthorn have previously chipped the ball around a little bit.
Yes, correct.
Could he get involved in some of that switch play as well? So have decent job security and then the ability to give you a 50 or a 60 on any given week.
Yeah, from what I understand, he's also maybe a little bit of a intercept marker as well. So whether or not, you obviously have Sicily there, who obviously plays that role a fair bit.
Yeah.
He was the 2023 VFL's best young player. He won that award last year. He's 24, so a little bit older. So there's a little bit there for him. So I think I don't mind that option if you want to lock in a 200k that maybe has a bit more job security than those other players. But I am really interested in watching Howes and Dean in opening round. We know Howes is going to be there. I'm not sure if Dean will be, but that will influence. Because if you get like a 60 from a Howes, it's going to be hard to say no, I think, because you're going to get that. And if he's named round one, you're going to get that sure thing, double price rise from a basement price.
Yep.
When there's a lot of uncertainty there. Just one to watch. So that's Blake Howes for the Melbourne Demons. So if you haven't got him on your radar, put a little star next to his name because, I don't think... Maybe that 50K is the difference between you getting a player that you really like and someone that you're settling for.
And if that is the case, I would speculate.
I think I would
go
too.
with that.
I think this is the line I'd be happy to.
Obviously, Josh Gibcus is a guy that we've mentioned previously. He's going to have good job security if he can remain uninjured. The scoring's probably not going to be there as much, but
I don't think so.
if he gets healthy and gets feeling good in his body, he could give you some good scores. Toby Pink is a guy that we think could have decent job security, and then a guy that a couple of months ago it looked like everyone was locking in at even a D6. Dan Curtin.
Yeah, he's at the bottom of this list for me.
Yeah, well, he looks as though he has the potential to not actually be playing. Yeah. So you're paying up for him and
so it's
not playing.
So he didn't play in their practice match, the preseason game. He's the most expensive out of all of these guys.
Yeah.
And, he's been carrying a knee complaint, so there's sub risks and things like that. And he's a prize rookie, so they're going to be a bit more cautious with him. Yeah. I don't think we should be picking Daniel Curtin. Probably even if he is there, I'd be tempted just to go somewhere else for defender rookies. So, yes, at this stage in my team, I've got Reed and Schoenmaker there, but I'm keeping an eye on Howes, Phillips and Dean, and maybe also the other two that I'm considering. Those bottom three I'm not really considering for my team pretty much at all this stage. I think those other ones are going to be there.
A lot of these conversations could end up being absolutely irrelevant in a couple of weeks as well.
I mean, it's more just like these are names that if you don't have them on your radar, chuck them in there, star. This is, at this stage, what I'm thinking about, so... Let's talk about the midfielders.
Beautiful. Yeah, well, I think...
a few more concrete answers here.
Yeah, well, especially for those on-field options. McKercher and Sanders have both looked good at various stages in their preseason and then community series games as well. So I think if you don't have them on field, they're going to be locked in on field. It's just the discussion of whether you can put another one of these guys on the field or not.
Yes, I am very much firming up to say I want two. Yep. I want the two guys because I've got a list here of my favourites and I can only really go 6 deep on this list. Now, there's 6 solid ones here, but that's not to say that there's, like, the next line we'll talk about in a lot of detail is the forward line. There's a lot of rookies there. So, if you're going to have 3 on your bench, 3 on your field and then 2 on your field, there's 5 of my 6 here. So, you're basically picking all of them. And that's to say that maybe you want to have one in your utility and not have, like, one of those maybe forward rookies or something like that in your utility spot. So, I like the 2.
Yep.
I also don't like the 1 either. I think I've had a few questions we've had on YouTube if people can sneak another rookie and move one of McKercher or Sanders onto the bench to get another mid-pricer. I don't want to do that either. I think these guys can score in line with some of those other mid-pricers.
Yep.
So I want them on field playing for my team in McKercher and Sanders, just bar nothing. Yeah. So those are the top 2. Jeremy Sharp, I think, is at number 3 for me. He didn't score all that well, but I have to remember it was against Port.
Yeah, difficult team to score against, but I probably was hoping to see a little bit more.
Probably me so too. I think there's a gap between number 1 and 2 and the rest.
Yeah.
I think 3, 4, and 5 are all pretty close in my estimations here.
Roberts and Fahey will get a chance to have a look at in
opening round
0. Yes. So do you think that makes you more likely... Let's say both of those guys come out, they give you like a 60. Are you more likely to go with what you know, or are you more likely to speculate and go, okay, I'll go Sharp?
So I am probably going to pick 5 of these guys at this stage. So I think the order I've got them in here, I've got Sharp 3, Roberts 4, Clark 5, and Fahey 6.
Okay.
So of those options, if both Roberts and Fahey both go with that 60, I'm probably still going to fade Josh Fahey.
Yeah, crickets. Give yourself crickets.
Oh, no, that's the wrong sound. Oh, move on to the next one.
Seamless, mate.
Seamless.
Seamlessly done.
Yes,
well done.
But yeah, but say Josh Fahey goes 60 and Roberts goes 40.
Yep.
then I might flip those ones around and just get that injection of cash straight away. But I like Roberts' role. I think he's probably more cemented in the team, especially with some of those injuries over at St Kilda. I think his job security is a bit better, which is why he is number 4 ahead of those other guys.
I think of those options, I probably, obviously McKercher and Sanders, but I think I probably like Roberts a little bit more than Sharp from what I saw.
Yeah, I mean, I think Sharp, Roberts, and Clark, and I think their scoring potential is all fairly similar.
Yeah.
I've probably ranked them here in order of job security. To be fair, I think Sharp's got the highest with that wing role. They've kind of, went out and grabbed him essentially.
Yeah.
He's obviously a slightly older player than especially the bottom two, and with injuries at Sydney, Roberts is there. Clark, as good as he is in the midfield role he got, there's something that's still at Geelong. Maybe it's just the fucking Geelong factor here for me, but I just see him as a vest potential still. Do you see that, or do you think there's other options at Geelong that maybe are more close to that vest line?
I think so, but like you said, it's so hard to tell because not a lot comes out of there, and they do play their cards really close to their chest. So if there's a better option, and I'm toing and froing, I'd probably move away from Geelong.
Yeah. Do you have a different read on Josh Fay? Do you think he's a...
I haven't watched a great deal of GWF. I mentioned this to you
they're not
before.
very relevant outside of some of these rooks. But
so it's just, situations have just...
for some reason, I thought he was a defender at one stage, and I was more excited, and then I realised he's a mid-only.
Makes it harder.
So, yeah, if he was a defender, he'd probably be the number 1.
Speaking of DPP, you did mention that you like some of these forward options more. Is there a scenario where you would actually pick an extra forward option, one of those mid-forward guys into your midfield because you like them better?
There might be. I think there's a very clear top 4 forwards.
Yeah, just looking at your list here.
That I love. I don't know if that 5th guy, because if you're going to have maybe 2 rookies on your forward line, 2 on your bench, well, there's your top 4.
Yeah. Then it's dropping down.
So do I prefer like a Clark to the second, the bottom parts of this list in the forward line? That's for other people to decide. At this stage, I am leaning Clark just because his role is so friendly.
Yeah.
If he's there, if he is getting centre bounce attendances, even if he's subbed out at 3/4 time, maybe he does enough in 3/4 to, make it better than some of these other guys. So, it I guess depends on how you're structuring up, but I do really like the top 4 forwards. Where it gets a bit, touch and go is from 5 downwards. So let's maybe go through those forwards, hey? And this is maybe also a discussion for who's on field, because I think this will be maybe where a little bit of that rookie roulette will have to come into play with fielding these options. Number 1, Harley Reid. I will be starting him on my field. I think the panic after that first practice game was maybe a little bit reactionary. He'll be fine, I think.
And we mentioned it last episode as well. I think is they're going to do everything to make sure that he's fine.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Otherwise, they will not like the headlines on the paper the next day, because he gets all the papers.
He does.
And his job security, I think, is better than pretty much anyone in the these lists. Maybe aside from McKercher and Sanders. Number 2 at this stage by a hair is Charlie Lazaro. At number 3, I have Darcy Wilson. I really liked what I saw from him against it's against North, but he's been touted as a really good player, high upside player, good on both sides of his feet.
He won their time trial as well, didn't he?
Apparently he's an excellent runner.
That's always massive in terms of scoring points.
And he beat players like who are their good runners? I know there's some really obvious
Bradley
ones.
Hill is pretty.
Bradley Hill,
good
yeah,
runner,
like
think,
he's renowned as a super aerobic kind of a player. So and he got out ahead of him. So there's a world where Darcy Wilson, despite now obviously sometimes you order it by price.
Yeah.
And you naturally just put that 249 guy on the bench and the 288 guy on the field. Maybe it's a better way to flip it over.
Yeah.
Lazaro's role just seems a little bit more friendly to me.
Yeah, and am I right in saying we could have some loopability at certain stages?
Definitely. I mean, especially with those early buy rounds and things like that. You've got maybe someone like a Sexton there, round 3. You can have a look at the early one playing, but first 2 rounds probably not.
Yes.
So you're willing to make those decisions, but yes, there will be some loop bay fiasco action that can definitely happen, as you like to say. But I've got Lazaro just edging out Darcy Wilson, but I love both of them. Do you have it that order, or are you coin flipping it the other way?
I think it's semantics. I think you can have both of them anyway. So,
but on field, who are you fielding?
Matchup is going to be dependent there as well. So you got to have a look at who they're playing, and I haven't dug that deep into it, but that's definitely going to depend as well.
Number 4 for me is Caleb Windsor. I think he's definitely someone we're going to have in our sides. I don't think I'm going to be fielding him.
His job security is going to be
almost
almost
great.
second to Reid, McKercher, and McKenzie, and then it kind of drops into Windsor, I think.
I think so. He looked great, but he still didn't get to 50 in terms of his scoring in that preseason game. He was a bit managed in terms of time on ground. I think he had like 60% or something like that.
Yeah.
So,
and he is a little bit more XY, so
he's a bit more XY.
The price rise could be a little bit slower.
Look, I definitely think you have him. I think he's going to make you some good cash. But in terms of fielding him, I have the other 3, I think, kind of more clearly above him.
Yep.
So those are my clear top 4. I think you've got to have all 4 of those players. And then there's a bunch of names. I'll run through them. Harvey Thomas, 200k for GWS. Zane Dersma, 291k for North Melbourne. Hugo Garcia, who had some CBAs for St Kilda, although there are a few names to come back in. Kai Lohman scored really well for the Brisbane Lions. We'll see him opening round. Oliver Dempsey looked decent for the Geelong Cats. He's 252k. Nick Watson, the Hurricanes' shortest player in the AFL, 288k. Sean Manor only played limited time for Geelong, but apparently he looked really good and scored well in that limited time, so he might still be a chance to be there. 200k, and Bailey Laurie, 200k for the Demons. He played a few games last year, so might be up there, but probably, he's the last player on this list. So 12 rookies from the forward line that I can easily see playing round 1.
Yeah.
Any of those names stand out to you as someone you maybe want to take a punt on, or...
I mean, one name stands out, not necessarily because I want to take a punt, but Zane Dersma is obviously a high draft pick and a guy that people had in their forward lines earlier in the preseason as well.
Against the Saints, did he?
Well, he scored reasonably well. Like, if he can give you, I think it was a 63, so if he can give you that every week, then you'd be really happy. Although you are paying top dollar, and then the caveat on that is he had to kick 2 goals to get to that 63. So... The 2 goals is the bit that worries me a little bit because I don't think that's going to be a weekly occurrence. And so if you've got a guy that's priced at 291 and he starts giving you those 40s, low 50s, the price or the cash generation is going to be a real slow burn.
Yeah.
And if you have other better options that are cheaper, you're certainly going to be able to pocket that 91k and do something really good with it at the start of the season and get a cheaper rookie that's going to pop quicker anyway.
Yeah, I think I think he looked good. I think he looked like an excellent mark, like his hands and especially overhead, and he's bigger than I thought he would be. I don't know, taller. Just had a bit more of an aerial presence than I thought he would. But I agree, just that extra bit of price just fades him a little bit for me. Harvey Thomas is someone that I really like the look of in the Giants. He didn't really play centre bounce midfield, but he definitely was that high half forward wing sort of type that got into the stoppages after, those centre bounces and
like I said,
tackled well.
I didn't watch much GWS, but you reckon he'll break into...
I think he's going to be there. Yeah, I do think he's going to be there. Now, there's a few guys I think that have to come in, so... Little bit of maybe a sub risk, but he scored 66 points in that game, 6 tackles. I love the way he tackled. I think he even gave away a few free kicks, so that which some rookies might do, but the GWS have that awesome run as well to start. We're going to have a look at it in the opening round bye. But starting with West Coast and North Melbourne is going to be great for your cash gen.
If looking at him in round 0, he scores well and he looks like he's a guy that they can't drop.
It might be really quick, like
3 games, bang, bang, bang.
Yeah,
I think I'd get on. I'm just a little concerned when you're looking at the rookies from some of those teams that you see as premiership contenders. There's every chance that, we'll give him a game because he's earned it in the preseason, and then after rounds, 1 or 2, we're just going to kind of settle into regular programming.
Yeah.
I think that could be a risk with anyone from those top teams.
Yeah. Probably one player that I didn't list here that I've now just remembered, Aaron Cadman from the Giants as well. Okay. He's obviously a bit more of a key forward. He looks better. He looks bigger than last season, and he definitely, I think, worked up the ground more so than we have seen in the past.
It's positive for scoring.
And again, you talk about those early runs for a key forward, especially someone who maybe does rely on goals. There's no better start than West Coast and then the North Melbourne.
We should be bloody trading in. Who's the big 4 that went 180?
Oh, I think I know who you're talking about. Didn't he score 190?
How have I forgotten his name?
Bloody, You've caught me off guard here. Hold on.
Yeah,
I'm gonna look it up because it's gonna piss me off that he's not there. Bloody hell.
It just shows that we're not AFL fans anymore and that we're just fantasy fans.
Jesse Hogan. Yeah, no, it's just on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah, if you're not fantasy relevant, we won't even remember your name.
Yeah.
Got that.
So, look, again, if someone like an Aaron Cadman comes out and drops a decent score in that opening round, and that's the thing with this opening round, like I am very willing to be reactionary with a lot of these rookies.
Yeah.
And if they come out and do something like Kate Chandler did last year and just come out of nowhere and have a 100-point, first game, you better believe I'm getting them into my side and riding that cash, Jen. So, yeah, I think that will dictate a lot if there is a surprise in that and they are named in that round one. I think you just got to jump on and ride that cash.
For sure. We skipped over the rucks sort of somewhat intentionally. There's not too many options there, but a guy that a few people have sort of mentioned is Conway at Geelong, and he's just above rookie price. Do you see there being any opportunity for him to be?
Well, he didn't play. He didn't play against Essendon,
and you don't feel as though there's.
So, am I going to pay an extra $100,000 for someone that I've not laid eyes on really this preseason, seen scores? Yeah. I don't think so. It's Geelong again. Maybe my distrust for them is a bit too far, but until they prove me otherwise, I feel like it's a safer option just to leave it, go that basement, 200K. They're the red dot. You got your vice captain loophole for the first round and round 4 when it's gather rounds. So
it'd be an interesting scenario to think that let's say we all go and get ourselves a non-playing 200K ruck, and then for whatever reason Conway becomes the number 1 ruck at Geelong. It would be interesting
how to get him in.
Well, it's like, do you make an upgrade at your R3 spot?
No, well, that's why you want to get a ruck forward, right? Because then you could go maybe a forward rookie across to him or down to him, and then move them around. So if you are looking for that, red dot ruck player, I would recommend getting someone who is also forward eligible for that flexibility reason. So. That is just my thoughts there.
Fantasy IQ, mate.
Fantasy IQ.
I knew there's a reason I kept you around.
You kept me around? All right. Okay, but those are the rooks there. I'll keep it short and sweet. I think we don't want to obviously go too long with these rooks because it will be dictated by opening round, and obviously who the fuck is there actually round 1 because some of these guys might be surprise omissions.
Like we said, the purpose of the podcast is just to add those little stars to those players and just to keep an eye on them.
Absolutely. So, thank you very much for joining and listening to this one, guys. Reminder, I'm just plugging that opening round, that round 1 live show, which used to be opening round, but round 1 live show, Friday. What's the date on that one there, Luke? Are we... You
tell me, Mitch.
Let's have a look. It's the... Friday the 15th on 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So check us out on YouTube. There will be a description. In the description, there'll be a link there. You can go over. Make sure you give this one a big like and subscribe this YouTube channel, guys. We've been soaring up into. We're going for 3K. 3K now. We've ticked off the 2K. Let's get to 3K subscribers, and with your help, we can definitely get there. If you have enjoyed all the content we've been doing this preseason, give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And we will catch you guys next time. We're probably going to do a bit of a preview for opening round, just what we're looking for, and maybe a few questions as well. So we'll catch you guys later. Bye.